Robert grew up on this block. Robert was raised on this block. Robert was taken decades ago, but all of us are here to remember him and his legacy that will stand forever on this street. And as decades go by, when residents say, tell us about Officer Denton and what he did and what he accomplished, this will live on. All of us will pass this earth, but this legacy will live on forever. And this dedication today is not only for Robert, it is for every single one of you. It's a way that all of you should have that message that you're loved, that you're appreciated, that you'll be honored. And if, God forbid, you're ever taken, you will be remembered and you will have a legacy.
For me, this is personal. Because when I walked into the 73rd Precinct almost 17 years ago, one of the first things that you get to see when you walk past that giant desk is a bronze plaque of Patrolman Robert Denton. And that plaque watched over each and every member of service that entered the doors of 1470 East New York Avenue. So today is a day to celebrate and remember a man and preserve his legacy. That legacy that has now gone far beyond the walls of Fort Z. Today, this legacy comes to Abbey Lane, so that for decades upon decades, the young children that walk through Levittown can look up at this street sign and say, who was Patrolman Robert Denton? And they could jump on their smartphones and Google away. Because what they're going to read is that Patrolman Robert Denton died a hero.
He came to me in 1968, and he said, Ron, let's join the NYPD. I said, nah, I got a good job. I don't want to join. I don't want to be a policeman right now, so on and so forth. But he talked me into it, being my best friend. He was like a brother to me. He had called my mother and father mom and dad, and likewise I called his mother and father mom and dad. We drove up to the Bronx. It was a walk-in test. Took the test, 1969, we get called. He gets assigned to the 7th, and I get assigned to the 13th Precinct. A wonderful, wonderful fella who played Little League Baseball in Levittown, Pony League Baseball. He was on the football team with me and a number of friends of mine that are standing behind me. He was a linebacker, a tough son of a gun, but a sweetheart. He wrestled in high school. He was an avid wrestler, ran track. He was an athlete. He was in the Cub Scouts. He did everything right in his life.
You know, 10 days ago, I spoke at a 100th anniversary for Patrolman Frank Mondo. Whether it's 100 years or 51 years, like here today, police officers, active, retired, our community that's here, will never forget the sacrifice our police officers have made in the line of duty. By all of you being here, you are sending a message that we will never forget the sacrifice that Patrolman Denton made for the 7th Precinct, the community, and the city he served.
The only thing he did wrong in life was not looking behind him and see who was walking behind him. I got to tell you the circumstances of how he was murdered. I want people to know this. Bobby was on patrol. I'm going to backtrack a little. About 10 o'clock, he was doing a late tour, 12 midnight to 8 in the morning. And at that time, a number of police officers would be working around the clock. They would do a week of 8 to 4s, a week of 4 to 12s, and 12 to 8s, unless they got volunteers to work the steady midnights. Bobby was working a midnight tour, just newly married to the woman of his dreams, gorgeous Kathy. He loved her so much. And he lived here in Levittown. He kissed her goodbye about 10 o'clock at night, drove into the 7-3, went out on patrol. At 2:30 in the morning, he was rolling around with his partner, and they came up to Saratoga and Blake Avenue in the 7-3 precinct. And they got stopped by a young fella, 18 years old, who wanted to know how to become a police officer. So Bobby explained to him what he had to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They rolled up a few feet away, and Bobby walked into a delicatessen, or what you want to call a bodega, and bought a pack of cigarettes. And I remembered Bobby always smoked Lucky Strike. As Bobby came out of the delicatessen, the fella who asked him how to become a police officer sneaked up behind him and stabbed him twice in the neck, nearly cutting off his head. It was very, very tragic. There's a police officer that's here today that has not come to any of the ceremonies that we've had at the 7-3, and I can't remember his name, who was there that day. And I just met him for the first time and tried to help Bobby, went to the hospital with him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And on behalf of his family, I'd like to thank you for all you tried to do for Bobby. Last year, we had an anniversary ceremony, a memorial ceremony for Bobby. I would say there was at least 200 to 250 people there at that ceremony. A lot of friends, a lot of police officers, and just strangers from the neighborhood were invited. And we had it catered, and it was a beautiful, beautiful affair for Bobby. I have to mention Detective Patrizzo. You want to stand up, please? Stand up. Come on. Marianne Patrizzo. Marianne has helped me tremendously over the years in keeping Bobby's name and honoring him all these years. What a job she has done. Thank you so much. I love you. You are part of the family. And she just celebrated her 35th year on the job. One other gentleman I'd like to thank is the trustee from the PBA, Art Edner. Artie, right over here. I'll tell you, Artie is one hell of a guy. And let me tell you something, every police officer should be like you. And I mean that wholeheartedly, Artie. You're just a wholeheartedly Artie. Little tongue twister there. But we need a little humor, because I don't want this to be a sad day. So his mom and dad are deceased.